Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. I'm going to talk about a few other things that are going on as well. This comes from Blue Hawk Legend. LOL idiots. It's already centralized. There's nothing you can do about it. Bitcoin decentralization is a matter of national security. So they're bringing this up again, and this is what they had to say. Anytime you have hardware, software, and firmware from a foreign entity connected to your energy infrastructure, which is what Bitcoin has essentially become, you have to make sure that you are doing the proper due diligence and risk mitigation. So it looks like they're going to start to crack down on Bitcoin mining once again. So on one hand, you have the mainstream media news, Michael Saylor and BlackRock shilling Bitcoin every chance they get. And at the same time, you have the US government and a handful of politicians trying to crack down on Bitcoin. You know, at this point, something's going to give. What is it going to be? We really don't know yet. The IMF wants El Salvador to limit the public sector exposure to Bitcoin. Now, right away, a bunch of Bitcoin holders said the IMF cannot tell El Salvador what to do. They absolutely can, because El Salvador is in debt to the IMF. When El Salvador needs money again, they're going to go to the IMF for more money. And I think the reason the IMF is doing this right now is because they're starting to push towards an ESDR. I think that's the end game for the IMF. Now, if that was to happen, XRP could play a very crucial role in that. That can easily get XRP to 4 digits plus. Bitcoin is flipping in and out of bear mode, but could still reach $100,000 this year, says CNBC. I absolutely agree with that. I think Bitcoin is capable of reaching $100,000. The one thing I'm worried about is all these stablecoin bills getting put in place and these stablecoin laws in a handful of countries right now, because that could impact Tether, which could really impact the price of Bitcoin in the middle of a bull run. No, you won't find out who Satoshi is next week. Now, I just mentioned this in a video a couple days ago, how HBO is doing this documentary on how they're going to reveal who Satoshi is. But people said unmasking Satoshi risk undermining Bitcoin's mystique and independence. As Bitcoin grows into a global asset, the stakes around identifying its creator rise exponentially. Now, I don't think HBO is going to reveal who Satoshi is. I'm going to watch this to see if they name someone as Satoshi, because I still think it's David Schwartz and a handful of other people that then went to work on the XRP ledger. Then this is absolutely incredible. This is XRP versus Bitcoin with Matt Hamilton and Da Vinci Jeremy. Take a listen to what he says about the XRP ledger. Absolutely incredible.
I think that is a really good reason for cryptocurrencies and, deflationary cryptocurrencies like XRP that have a finite supply that can't be inflated specifically, meet that requirement. One of the biggest issues with Bitcoin is its scalability. It's whatever it is, 7 transactions or 10 transactions a second, whatever it can do. Then, every person in the world is going to be, if they wanted to use Bitcoin, they could make 2 transactions in their entire lifetime, and that would be the capacity used up. So the only way in which Bitcoin can actually kind of scale to be usable is to have additional things like layer 2 networks or custodial networks or whatever that, unfortunately, in making it more useful, remove a lot of the very key, interesting concepts that Bitcoin is known for, right? And that Bitcoin uses. So I totally agree. Bitcoin was revolutionary. It was great when it came out. It was fantastic. And I totally agree with what you're saying in terms of its goals. The problem being is that from a pragmatic point of view, it's just not usable in society with the number of people that want to be able to use it, right? The transaction fees are just too high, and they're going to get higher as the mining subsidies disappear. Then the fees are going to get higher and higher, and it's going to be your banks, your rich people, whatever, they're going to use it, because the everyday person is just simply not going to be able to afford to transact on Bitcoin. So they're going to have to use layer twos that just, most of those remove the interesting aspects that make Bitcoin unique. And so you might as well use something instead that is far more pragmatic with this approach. And like I said, the XRP ledger was created by Bitcoin developers who understood this, right? That is why they created the XRP ledger, because they understood this. And one of the first use cases of Bitcoin, of the XRP ledger, was to tokenize Bitcoin, right? That's why it was the first blockchain to have a DEX, the first blockchain to support tokenization, because one of its early use cases was to tokenize Bitcoin and, transact Bitcoin in a far more efficient manner.
So one of the very first use cases of the XRP ledger was to tokenize Bitcoin, to make it usable. And, he said exactly what I said in one of the very first videos I ever made on XRP. I always said that what's going to make Bitcoin irrelevant is technology advancing. As technology continues to advance, it's going to leave Bitcoin behind even more, because everybody eventually is going to leave Bitcoin. If you can't use it, you will lose interest in it. It's like buying something that was great one day and then you realize, okay, well, I don't use that anymore, so I might as well just get rid of it. Same thing is going to happen here. And like Matt Hamilton said, it's going to get more expensive over time as well. Now, they're changing the underlying hardware, does not change the speed or capabilities of Bitcoin. Still 7 transactions per second. Take a listen to this.
Faster networks, right, which will allow us to actually instantly send transactions. What happens if we have instant transaction settlement across all the network nodes, right? What happens if that happens? You know what I mean?
That can't be done by changing something underneath Bitcoin. That can only be done by changing.
That is what's underneath, is the actual physical layers, right? That's like,
you
for
change
example,
those and Bitcoin stays the same. The Bitcoin algorithm specifically compensates.
Yes, the algorithm stays the same, just like TCP/IP does, right? But all of a sudden, because of a lot of equipment, the physical equipment, everything becomes faster. Bitcoin becomes faster. That's the same.
If you change all that underneath, right? Bitcoin still does 7 transactions a second and still a block every 10 minutes. In order to change those, you've got to change the parameters of Bitcoin itself, not the underlying. If I suddenly get a miner that can mine 10 times as many blocks a second, that doesn't change the speed of Bitcoin. We've seen that already, right? Bitcoin miners are now faster than they ever were, and that doesn't change, right? Bitcoin is designed to keep the block time constant, and hence the number of transactions per second constant. The only way of changing those is by changing the actual parameters of Bitcoin itself. You can't do that by changing an underlying layer. We've seen that over time. Otherwise, Bitcoin would now be 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times faster than it was, because we've got ASICs running instead of, my desktop CPU running, as it was, back in the day when I used to mine, right? Changing the underlying hardware doesn't change the speed or capabilities of Bitcoin.
So everybody that's always telling us that, oh, they're going to come out with this or that to make Bitcoin faster, it's just not true. It's still only ever going to be able to do 7 transactions per second. And that's why it's not ever going to have mass adoption. But when he couldn't win the argument, he said this. Take a listen.
But it's supporting a fraudulent system.
How is it supporting a fraudulent system? Would you characterize Strike as supporting a fraudulent system because it allows transactions between bank accounts with Bitcoin? Yes. Does that mean Bitcoin's a fraudulent system?
So just because the banks are going to utilize XRP and the XRP ledger, it becomes a fraudulent system. Here's what it comes down to. A new financial system is absolutely coming. And Bitcoin is not going to be part of that new financial system. So as utility continues to rise, the smart money is definitely going to be leaving Bitcoin and going into real value, something that has utility, whether it be XRP, XLM. It's most likely the smart money will be spread out among these ISO cryptocurrencies, because that's the path forward. Nothing's going to keep this new financial system from coming. It's already building out in real time right in front of us. Banks under attack as Octo 2 drains customers' accounts in secret smartphone takeover. So hackers have unleashed a highly advanced piece of malware that quietly infects mobile devices, takes control, and drains bank accounts without users even noticing. Security researchers at Threat Fabric say Octo 2 is a vastly improved version of a malicious mobile malware that captures users' bank credentials, and they are typed on the screen, allowing hackers to remotely send unauthorized transactions. You know, whenever I see these articles like this on how everything's advancing when it comes to malware and hacking, whenever those massive cyber attacks come in the future that are going to shut down the financial system, they are going to blame it on AI. Wait and see. The U.S. Federal Reserve's losses surpassed $200 billion this week, according to data released by Central Bank on Thursday. The Fed reported that level of so-called profit transfers to the Treasury Department was negative $201.2 billion on Wednesday. This number represents a paper loss that central bank officials have noted does not harm their ability to conduct monetary policy. So even the Fed now has losses to the tune of $200 billion. And then this came out. What they are is the biggest monthly spike in government workers on record, making the difference between a 4.1% and 4.5% unemployment rate. So all of a sudden, the government created 785,000 new jobs. Now, I think this is fabricated. I think this is made up because we are getting so close to the elections now. But the Fed went on to say, now that the job numbers are good, there's no reason to cut rates going forward. So it looks like we're not going to see any more rate cuts this year. Let's wait and see what happens. Well, that's not good. Hackers have started using AI to churn out malware. Like I said, they're going to blame AI when the massive cyber attacks start. And the World Economic Forum has been warning of this for years. Anybody in the XRP community knew about this as far back as like 2016. And they always said, just wait until the power goes out and the rise of the new financial system. XRP is going to rise like the phoenix from the ashes. And I think we're getting close to that happening. You know, whenever you see the U.S. government adding all of this debt, and we're already well over $35 trillion in debt, why do you think they don't try to stop spending money? Why do you think they're creating more and more debt all the time? Because they know we are headed to a reset. That's why they figure, okay, we just got to stretch the dollar out long enough until this new system is ready. Once it's ready, all of a sudden a cyber attack happens. When the lights come back on, we have the new financial system. And at that moment, we are going to be very rich as XRP holders. That's what's coming. And I mean, you could see it already setting up for that. Even the banks, we already know that liquidity crisis is going to happen. And, you know, the banks have not gotten better. It's just that they're trying to keep everything looking good until after the election. But eventually, we are going to get rich off of XRP. And until it happens, you got to stay patient, stay positive, so we can get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.